for me this is very, very much triggering this energy of Eros inside of my own being without anybody else being around. When I feel in contact with the elements, when I'm walking barefoot and it's raining and I feel the rain on my skin, or I swim in a lake and I see the trees around and I smell the air, the freshness of the nature. Uriel and I have had this inspiration to start a lecture series on the subject of godly Eros, of Tantric Eroticism, sacred Eroticism, because it's by far not just Tantra that addresses this very fascinating subject. In the lecture today, we wish to share with you some very practical aspects that nevertheless are very high in principle in nature, and you will find that this might be the case again and again when we speak about sacred eroticism. It is something very hands-on and very clearly applicable and feelable when it happens, but it requires a deep principle understanding to, let's say, get there repeatedly. All of us are much capable to experience spontaneous sacred eroticism. But the idea, of course, in Tantra is to make it a systematic practice and something that you can repeat. And for that we will give some pointers today that for some of you, you might feel a little bit, I don't think offended, but maybe a little bit rubbed in some ways that are maybe a bit more frictionate than you are used to. And therefore, as a little disclaimer, traditional Tantra is thousands of years old. It is coming from a different cultural background, and it hasn't been conveyed or it hasn't been, let's say, revealed in order to be politically correct or in order to give pleasure to anybody who wants pleasure. But it is a system that allows you to reach enlightenment through erotic pleasures. But in order to reach enlightenment, anything that makes you reach enlightenment has to it some very clear principles and mechanisms that, if correctly applied, will have that thing that you're doing lead you into a very high and elevated state. And if not, will not do so. So therefore, these will not be so much lectures on how can I please a woman. If you will become a sacred erotic lover, you will please your woman. This is just a given, but it's a side effect. It's not so that you learn to push some buttons or to go with your tongue around certain areas in the correct way. It will come anyways, this. But we will much rather wish to give you the right inner attitude, which is so much taught within the Tantric scriptures, especially of the Kashmiri and Shaivism tradition. There are so many amazing pointers that allow you to really transform from the inside out and to become simply a completely different lover, and therefore become an amazingly godly lover, rather than learning some tricks that make you perform better. So this is a little bit what we are after. Now, some of you don't maybe know what sacred Eros, how is it defined, what is it, what's going on with it. And what I like to do as let's say little entrance into the subject is for you to just practically for a moment think of the worst sex that you ever had. I'm not talking, please, about violence and criminal acts. I'm talking about, it was all consensual, but it was just not very good. So think of the worst consensual and non-criminal sexual act you were engaged in, and think for a moment, why was it so bad? What were the things within it that made it just not very good? And if you can think even just of one quality, one aspect, one characteristic to that sexual experience that made it not very good, if you can type it in the chat. Disconnected, that's right.
Pleasing attitude.
Pleasing attitude. What else comes to mind? Bad sex. I didn't feel natural, disconnected. Because I have to pretend that it was pleasurable just so he doesn't get hurt or feel rejected. Yeah, and therefore also again disconnect, right? Being not on the same wavelength. Absorption in physical desire and lack of consciousness. Mechanical. Feeling used. Egoistic. Selfish. Only concentrated on physical pleasure. No eye contact, no kisses, which sort of translates into no connection, no presence with each other, maybe even no love. Rushed, yeah, there's no good rhythm in it. Yeah, I think we sort of get the point. It's very good. You can write down more things for yourself if you want to, and just keep that for a moment as a description of terrible sex, let's call it. Now I want you to think of the best, most wonderful, most godly, most inspired, most uplifted, most amazing erotic experience you've ever had in your life. And think again, why? Try to think of 3 points. Why was it great? Why was it amazing? Why was it uplifting? And again, you can just shoot it out on the chat and also in the room if you want to. Both love and chemistry. Both of us were 100% present. Love, fusion, connection, love and care, pure connection, revealing of higher aspects, such as king and queen, like becoming archetypal. Very beautiful. You can subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to receive notifications. And you can find a variety of lectures there and questions and answers. And also soon we wish to start more and more segments of answering to your questions, addressing aspects that you find relevant. So if you want to share with us what kind of subjects you find relevant, you can please write to us an email, Tantra Yoga Chiang Mai @gmail.com. There was total acceptance of each other, heavenly, blissful, godly, feeling the other one's soul and heart, feeling nourished. Yes. So you can see in the way that you described these two experiences, each of you intuitively in touch with what we would describe in Tantra, or let's say what we would make distinct in Tantra as sexual experience, sex, erotic experience, Eros. The words that you gave on the sexual front is basically there's a lot of focus on the physical, on the pleasure, on attraction. It can feel, therefore, disconnected, feeling even a bit empty afterwards, feeling used, feeling a sense of maybe being rushed, not having the right rhythm, feeling that, okay, maybe there's attraction but there isn't love. There's some sort of disconnect, there's some sort of lack of being synchronized with one another and so forth. So the sexual dimension of the amorous game is that dimension that happens unconsciously, that happens without love, and that is mainly governed by instinct. Unconsciously experienced sexuality goes towards instinct and is therefore still driving us together, but not together with everything we are. So you might have a fusion of the bodies, even maybe an energetic fusion to a certain degree, but you might not feel that heart and soul are really involved in the process. On the other hand, you have the erotic dimension of the amorous game. The erotic dimension is signified by consciousness, first of all. It is that part of your, let's say, amorous creative expression that is in the light of your consciousness, that you are present to, that you are aware of. It has a rising quality. You said godly. Love, of course, is part of that expression, let's say, of our amorous energies. So the first thing that we say in Tantra is that you must be aware that there's a distinction between these two. And we will use the words sex and eros, sexual manifestation, sexual experience, sexual energy, erotic experience, erotic energy, in order to distinguish between the two. Now, typically within a lovemaking game, you will have both of these aspects come to play, because as much as we are not 100% immersed into pure spirit consciousness and our soul just by ourselves individually, in the same way, even as much as we might be aspiring to such a state, when we come together, the two lovers, we will have a mix of things. We will at times feel very uplifted, very much having all our intentions, all our energies point towards an elevated, connective, loving experience, which then through the intensity of the intimate act will even get empowered and much stronger. And on the other hand, you might at times have instinct creep in. You might have pleasure seeking creep in. You might have, let's say, just the raw physicality, the oomph sort of come in and play its game as well. So the whole point of the let's say path of tantric eroticism is to gradually come to a purely erotic experience, where both of the lovers come already completely fulfilled, completely nourished and whole, both in themselves, without the need to get some desires met. Both of them already balanced, both of them already alchemizing within themselves, both of them open systems in contact with the rest of the world, both of them ready to merge, to join one another in this beautiful game of intimacy, rather than wanting something from the other. So this is just in a nutshell to get a bit of a feeling of Eros versus sex. But what I would like you to do is, much rather than having these maybe sometimes mental definitions, they are helpful, they play their role, but try to refer to that inside of you which is uplifted in the lovemaking game. You've all experienced it, all of us have had, hopefully, beautiful, uplifting, erotic experiences. Maybe not even with a lover, maybe just watching a mountain, you felt your heart just penetrated with the joy and beauty of Mother Nature, and feeling in that way very erotically fulfilled. Maybe you know this state. For me, this is very much triggering this energy of Eros inside of my own being, without anybody else being around, when I feel in contact with the elements, when I'm walking barefoot and it's raining and I feel the rain on my skin, or I swim in a lake and I see the trees around and I smell the air, the freshness of the nature. Maybe you know this particular state. Maybe when you've been a child and you've been going out to nature with your family, or maybe you've had some nice parties with your friends at the beach or something like that. There's a very particular way of the being opening up and feeling enriched by eroticism when we come in contact with nature and with the elements around. So try to refer to that as the, let's say, reference point for what Eros is within your being and what Eros really means. Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, Tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.